and welcome to another edition of the Blether with me, Gary.
And me, William, and it's very good to be with you all again. And thank you for the responses we received after last month's Blether with Fiona and Sharon on the interesting project they're progressing on the dances of John Drury. So we look forward to catching up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look forward to hearing about how it's moving on going forward in the months ahead. And thanks to you all as well for your good wishes that we received on the Blether's first birthday. It was really great to be able to get those good wishes and to be able to bring you this each month.
Yeah. Now, this month, we are delighted to welcome a man who, ladies and gentlemen, is in the depths of a hotel room somewhere in Scotland tonight with very, very, very fetching earrings, it would seem. But we did have some technical problems getting Neil linked up, but we've managed it. And we're delighted to introduce Neil because he's going to be producing his first album for the RSCDS with his band, Gary.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the music recording for the latest book of dances for book 54. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Neil Galloway to the Blether. Welcome, Neil. How you doing?
I'm all right. Good evening, folks. You're all well.
Yeah, we're very well, Neil. And yeah, thanks for wrestling with the old Wi-Fi in the hotel, which just wasn't working. So you're on your phone, and hopefully we can, you're actually, we'll not say to folks where you are, but you're in one of the most high-tech places in Scotland, and yet we couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work. It's
Is
just
it all, eh?
great, isn't it? Absolutely great. But it's great to have Neil with us, Gary, producing, I mean, well-known band leader, but producing your first album for the RSCDS. Neil, you must be delighted with that, are you?
Indeed. Very pleased with the outcome. Yeah, it's a tremendous honour actually. Like just an invitation out of the blue. It was highly unexpected, but yeah, very, very welcome actually.
Right, well, we'll maybe come to a bit more about the recording in a wee while, but maybe just to get to know you a bit better, Neil. You're an accordion player, and how did you get into playing the accordion for a start?
So my my father played just in the house, and so there was always an accordion kicking about in the house, and yeah, we like more played with it in the house than played it as such. And yeah, but like my dad's cousin was Bobby Crow. So he took a lot of inspiration from Bobby, as did I over the years. But yeah, so there was always kind of accordions kicking about. My dad's uncle also, he played in a band just locally around the doors in Fife, and that was kind of anywhere from kind of 1920 through to 1950 or so, and yeah, there was a lot of inspiration from him there. So that kind of just with it always lying about the house, that was kind of a new toy to play with kind of thing. Yeah, I think in all honesty, my dad got kind of fed up with me playing with his box, and there was a small accordion came up for sale in the kind of second hand section in the papers. So my dad bought that, and that was me kind of hooked from there.
Brilliant. Yeah. But I mean, Neil, you live in Fife, you're from Fife, and of course, St Andrews, Fife is the home of our summer school for over 90 years. And you suddenly mentioning the name Bobby Crow will take many of our older members right back to the halcyon days of the Younger Hall on the Thursday night when that was the only time summer school met in the Younger Hall. Because that dance was actually organised by the tourist board. It wasn't organised by us. It's a long story. The rest is history. We'll no go into that. We didn't organise RSCDS the Thursday nights at the Younger Hall, but it was always Bobby and or the Olympians, of course, and Bobby played with the
Yeah,
Olympians.
yeah.
And just suddenly memories will come sailing back because every Thursday night it was the Olympians and Bobby. Great player, Bobby Crow, a lovely man too.
Absolutely. I mean, he was quite a character. I mean, I have many fond memories and like stories of Bobby over the years. I mean, he was such an encouraging person, you know, like for me as a youngster, trying to pick up the instrument and, you know, trying to learn the music and what have you. And yeah, he was so generous with his time and advice and what have you, you know. And yeah, I mean, it's Bobby's box that I have now.
Oh, all right.
That was the box that I did the recording with.
Oh, fabulous.
So I mean, I've had his Gola for, oh God, that must be easily kind of 25, 30 years now.
Wow, that's fantastic, Gary, isn't it? I mean,
What a story.
certainly the recording you're all going to hear for book 44, the lead accordion is Bobby Crow's accordion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's quite incredible.
that's and it, you know, that shows the greatness of the RSCDS really, and that longevity of, you know, we'll have recordings with Bobby Crow playing them. So it'd be interesting to maybe have a listen back to them and to this new one with yourself, Neil, just to see to hear the actual same instrument, which is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the box itself, it sounds subtly different now. Some of the over the years, it's had a fair number of repairs and reed changes and stuff like that done just to keep the thing running. So it sounds a little different. The tuning I've always tried to get back to what Bobby had it, which is not easy. You know, it's not just something that you know, you just tune it to a number and that automatically works. It's all got to blend together, which is it's a difficult balance to get.
But the longevity of these instruments is quite incredible, isn't it? So how old is that Gola? How old is it?
So that Gola is 1971, I think it is.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It's one of the. It's not the earliest, but it's one of the earlier ones of that specific model, Gola. So yeah, a fantastic instrument overall.
That's amazing. Can't wait to hear it now. I mean, I was looking forward to hearing it anyway, but you know, to have that extra bit of excitement added to the recording is just wonderful. So, Neil, was it Bobby that inspired you to play for Scottish country dancing then?
Yeah, partly. I mean, I had played at a few kind of clubs and classes and what have you with Bobby, and basically over the years he introduced me to a man called John Sturrock. Now, you know, he'll be well known to a lot of the dancers in and around St Andrews. John used to run a dance class in Ceres, and it was through Bobby and John that I actually ended up playing for that class. And it was just, you know, it was basically to develop me as a player and learn how to, you know, hold a tempo and you know, like, not just end up kind of running away with the speed of the beats and what have you, you know, actually holding to an understanding of what was actually required from the tempo as well. So, you know, I had a great, I guess, learning resource in both Bobby and John Sturrock from that point of view, you know.
Neil, you live in Fife, and Fife, like many parts of Scotland, like down here, where Ian Holmes and Max Huliston and all these great guys. And in Fife, you had magnificent players, of course, dotted around. And of course, you live in Auchtermuchty, of all places. Are you within sight of the statue of the great Sir Jimmy Shandon, or that's where he came?
I'm not well. I can't quite see it from my front door, but I'm literally just over the hill from it. So it's yeah. I mean, like I could throw a stone out the back garden and I could hit the statue. Basically.
So living there,
Yeah.
living there. I mean, we've talked about this before, Gary. You know, for me living here and brought up in Dumfries, you're just soaked in Burns. You know, ask any kid in the street in Dumfries about Robert Burns. They'll tell you the whole story. You're just brought up. So being brought up in Fife, I mean, Jimmy Shand was such a huge character, not just to Scots, but he was an international superstar in many ways.
Oh,
So, were
absolutely.
you brought up, were you soaked in that Scottish sort of dance music right from early childhood, and it was inevitable as a musician, that's what you would play. It was Scottish dance music, do you think?
Yeah, aye. Basically, that's pretty much how it went. I mean, you know, I was extremely fortunate in the guys that I had dealings with, throughout my childhood altogether. I mean, it was really nothing to get a tune with the likes of Ian Powrie, Jimmy Blue. Um, like Jim Johnson. I mean, I don't know how many, I don't know how many events I was at where you were, availed with the opportunity to have a tune with these guys.
I mean, that's
Um,
terrific, absolutely amazing. Gary, you'll not understand this living in that cultural desert that you live in up in the northeast.
Oh, oh,
I thought I'd
oh.
get in first tonight. Thought I'd get in first tonight.
Neil, I'll share the emails that will get in on the back of that with you because they
oh,
were
absolutely.
flooding.
I hope so.
Aberdeen and Banffshire branches will be going mad just now,
Good, good,
technically.
good, good.
Yeah.
It'll get them going. That's us. Yeah, no,
Because of legendary names there, Neil,
oh,
and
I know.
and obviously,
Aye.
that helps, and the encouragement that you got from that obviously helped you keep going. But was there anything in particular about sitting down and playing for Scottish country that kind of grabbed you? Because obviously, as a youngster, I know that with my two kids, they go and try things and then they maybe don't like it and the switch and the change and giving them that different experiences at different things. But you were obviously grabbed by playing for Scottish country. Is there anything that in particular that did grab you?
So I, I like tunes that you can create a rhythm, you can dig into it, and um, it's not all about just going hell for leather and see how many notes you can squeeze into the bar. Obviously, there's an element of that can be enjoyable at times, but it's not what I hear, and it's not what I take. I guess the most pleasure out of playing for. I like technical tunes, um, but I like tunes that you're able to, create that what I call dunt, right? And by that, what I mean is that you can create a rhythm, but you can create lift, you can express the tune, you can stretch and reduce the gaps between the notes, which then creates a level of interest in playing the tune. Um, and I mean, like, there's some fantastic originals within the RS series books. The Dean Brigg of Edinburgh, kind of Strathspey. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy playing tunes like that because you can get a hold of them and go for it. And it allows you to express the tune in a different way. It's not just about playing the notes. You can actually stretch the tune out and make it make sense. And in a lot of instances, they perfectly fit the dance.
Mhm. Yeah, Neil, I couldn't agree with you more. Well, folk have heard me harping on and whining on about, list listening
About
to
everything.
not dance bands, but others, Scottish musicians playing. For some reason, they have to play a jig or a reel as fast as they possibly can. And for me, there's that line that you cross where the lift stops.
Mm.
The lift and the dunt, as you call it, stops, and it just becomes a finger exercise. And
Aye.
it's not musical, holding it back that wee bit. I always remember I had a job to do in Dumfries. It was one of the big parades for the bicentenary of Burns or the 800th anniversary of the town or whatever. I got the job of getting bands for this parade, and I was popping the bands in amongst all the floats and stuff. You see, we had about 15 bands, and the big picture was Strathclyde Police Pipe Band, who were world champions, and I had them at the end. And with no harm to the other bands, I was popping them in and off they went, absolutely respectable, marching up the street, all the rest of it. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. When Strathclyde went in, the rolls played and they struck up with whatever it was. And it was that wee bit slower than the rest had played. And the lift was absolutely magnificent. And it was at that point I went, aha, there is a speed, there is a moment when that lift stops if you just go too hard. And I think that's what you were saying, Neil. And you know, when you do hear that swing of a band, it's the speed that causes the swing. It's that just
Yeah.
holding it back and no letting it run away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, it's one of these things that you, you can, you can talk about it, and you can try and push your point, but some folk will just never get it. They it's not what they hear. So if they can't hear it for themselves, they'll never play it. They just you can't create what you can't hear within your own head. And I find that tunes have in my opinion, right, tunes have a natural speed that they sit comfortably at. There's some that you have to take below what that natural speed is to align and give the dancer space and time to actually get through them. And that's actually harder to do than just to play it at its comfy speed. A lot of the time I'm going to use that as the excuse that that's where the mistakes come from, because it is harder work to do that, because you're consciously having to think, right, what note am I going to hold on to in specific bars, and it can be not confusing, but you end up you lose the place because you're reading one thing and you're always reading ahead of what you're actually playing. So your hands then end up in a bit of a girdle kind of thing. But the thing I find as well is that when you're playing in a more controlled fashion, it allows you to bring in other tunes, but it can be quite difficult to find ones that match the beat that. Like tunes of a certain flow and a certain beat to them, and trying to get tunes that match similar form through it can be quite challenging, and that's where the music arranging comes in, kind of thing. So in the new book, that's the basis of what I've tried to do. Whatever the original was, match a beat that follows suit thereafter, so it doesn't sound like it's a disjointed set of music getting put together.
You mentioned the new book there, Neil. So obviously you've played for dancing for a long time. You've played at St Andrews Summer School. You've played, all over Scotland, presumably further afield as well. But this is your first recording for the RSCDS. So how does that feel? You get that phone call, that email to say we would like you to do it. Is there a bit of, oh, there's a lot of work mixed with
very much? Yeah, I mean, like it was, as I said before, it was a tremendous honour to get the phone call and be asked to do it, and then the realisation of oh God, how much work is this? Kind of sets in, a lot of the sets that are on it are stuff. They're not all legacy sets as such. There's a lot of kind of mix up of tunes that I've used in other sets previously that I've used and play at dances and what have you. There is some complete sets in there that are stuff that I've had in the folder for a while, but quite a lot of it was new sets that were made up, and certainly most of the harmony actually was completely redone just to suit the book. But a lot of as I said, it was a tremendous honour to be asked to play for it, and I can't express how thankful I am for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's what Gary said when he got the phone call from me to say if he'd be chair elect. But what an honour! I mean, he was just absolutely speechless with just humble honour and.
And then William told me how much he was delegating to me to do. And then I realised, oh, this is a lot of work.
It's only fair. You've got to learn the position, you know.
But Neil, I mean, obviously,
Hey,
obviously we're
can't
not.
stick up for him.
I'm nice to Neil. Yeah. But joking apart, we're not giving too much away here tonight because we know our membership services committee are going to have some webinars on the new book and on the music. So we are not going to tell you the names of the dances, and basically because they haven't told us either. We don't know. Even
Because
the even the
we
chair
can't keep any secrets.
even the
So
chair doesn't know what they are.
no, I'm the last to know. But
And
yeah,
so,
you're absolutely right, William. On the 29th of June, Sunday the 29th of June, there are going to be launch webinars that'll go over more detail about introducing the book and the recording. And we thought with this episode of the Bleather, it's better to get a feel of, get to know Neil a bit more, which is great, but also more about the process of how you have gone about the recordings. I suppose you mentioned there about making up sets and you obviously have to get a band together, which is it an expanded band from what you would normally have in an evening at a dance, and how do you go about getting the sets together? And because I think for dancers we turn up, the band sits there and plays, and maybe we don't always appreciate the amount of work that goes in before a dance to prepare a set of, if there's an 18 dance program, how much work goes in before that, and recording an album is none different, if not more so, more work than a dance.
Oh, indeed. I mean, the band that I use on we did the recording with, is a band that or is my band that I've used for recording broadcasts in the past.
who are the personalities in the band, Neil? What is the makeup of the band?
So it's a lead box, Susan Gordon. I better get it right. I always call her Macintosh, and it's not. It hasn't been for about 20 years.
It's not been for a long time, no.
So Susan Gordon on fiddle, Gary Sutherland on second box, Ian Adamson on drums, Graham Berry on piano, and Brian Cruikshank on bass.
And I think, am I right in saying it's Gary Sutherland's first recording with the RSCDS?
It is, yep, for the RSCDS, yep.
That's nice.
It's amazing.
So what was it like then, going into the studio and that light comes on and off you go with the first track? I suppose having those experienced guys behind you for the studio recording must have been a help, must have given you a bit of confidence, because the light goes on and you think, here we go. How would you get over that? Do you just think you're playing for a dance? Is that the best thing to do, rather than worrying about being in a studio?
Yeah. I mean, I've always found that the easiest thing is to ignore the light. If you go with the light, you're kind of done. It's nothing more than tells you stuff might or might not be happening in the background. But yeah, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of confidence to take from having guys like the rest of the band round about you in the studio. It helps you to just ease into the program that's ahead of you. For me personally, I usually end up just buried in the music, and pretty much kind of zone everything else out. I find that the easiest way to go with it, because everybody else is kind of focused on their piece of the puzzle kind of thing. So if you stray off or lose focus or whatever, yeah, you're just causing everybody else so much grief. But no, it's great fun actually in the studio, because there's a lot of things that you hear happening that you don't necessarily always hear on the stage. The fallback sound that you get is so much different in the studio to what you're used to playing on the stage. and obviously you can set that up to be whatever you want it to be as well. So you can, I found it really good actually to hear other bits that I wouldn't normally hear on the stage, just purely because of the kind of geography of how we're set out on the stage normally.
So I don't think I'm giving anything away because it is on the website.
Well, on your head be it.
And I'm petrified that I'd say something that I shouldn't do in this, which is quite regular, isn't it, William?
Absolutely.
Between the two of us. But there's 18 dances in the book, and there's slightly more in the CD. Is that right? So there's 18 dances plus a few extra tracks. So
Yeah.
how long does that take you to record?
So we started recording just at the back of 10 o'clock in the morning, and we came out of the studio just around about 6 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And
There's
that
a
was
fair length of time, and I think that's good for our members to realise just the amount of work that's on the day, never mind the amount of work that you've put in pulling everything together, and the other members of the band have put in pulling the sets together, practicing them, and getting ready for the day itself as well.
I mean it was a full day session. To be honest, it was a lot of music to actually record in that period of time. I think overall it ended up being, I think it was 20. It was either 23 or 25 sets overall that we recorded on that day. So a hell of a lot of concentration.
I was going to say, because
time.
we dance 8 times through 32 bars, but playing 8 32s is a long time to keep that steady, to keep it, and then you get those awful moments thinking, I suppose, oh my goodness, what part I'm on? Is it time to change the tune? If you just lose that concentration, it can all go. And the worst thing, of course, is you get to the last 8 bars and you relax and you think, I've made it. And that's when the fluff can come, isn't it? And it's a huge amount of concentration. It's phenomenal.
I mean, you can't really switch off with it. It's you have to be there and present all the way to the end, or you're just going to come to grief. But no, it was as I say, it was good fun to do. It was good fun to do.
So Neil, all that preparation, even for a dance, all the preparation of a dance program with 18, 20 dances on it, all the sets of tunes and all the rest of it. When we had our 2 music directors on, Luke Brady and Ian Muir, the dynamic duo. The other dynamic duo.
The other dynamic duo.
The poorer relations. We talked about how we get young musicians, and Ian talked about being at the conservatoire and trying to get young, a lot of them see that as just such a lot of work that maybe they don't need to do because they can go and play for a ceilidh and the band just hand knits it, as we might call it, of a night. How do we get them to appreciate what you obviously appreciated from your uncle and so on, that discipline of, looking at the tunes and matching the tunes and playing the tempo? How do we get younger musicians to want to do that?
I think they need to. Well, I think first of all they need to get an understanding of what is actually required of the music. I think there's a lot of stuff that's publicized through kind of TV and social media and what have you, and a lot of it is just the more ceilidh focused stuff and the folky side of the music scene, and then as I can see, to a point why that is, but it's just a different appreciation of the same thing. In terms of how we get that understanding, I think there's a perception that you can't generate the same level of interest or level of fun in and amongst the music if it's, you know, very staid and very steady, but you know, it's not the speed control allows it to do what it needs to do, and that's all that it needs to do. You know, it doesn't, for me certainly, it doesn't detract from how much fun you can have within the tune. And I think it's just the, you know, younger players getting an experience of that to understand then what's possible. You know, because I think when all the focus is about, right, you know, you've got to go for this, play it as fast as you can possibly play it. That's all they'll ever hear. You know, so I think, you know, it takes for guys like me to, you know, to bring younger players in and you know, like take them through what that process actually is, so they get an appreciation. You know, how to play the tune, what you can then do within it. To make that make sense for them, and I think, you know, once they've experienced it and understand what that process is about, you know, they'll make up their own mind as to whether that's for them or whether that's not. But you know, there will certainly be a significantly greater contingent heading towards that direction than the folky scene kind of thing that they're doing at the moment.
I think, Gary, we are making a concerted effort in the RSCDS to not just look at younger dancers and things, but really to look at how we can encourage young players to play for Scottish country dancing, because it's in everybody's interest. And I know Youth Services Committee and various folk are looking at mentoring schemes for young musicians and so on. Is that something that, you know, the board and everybody is very keen to see happen?
It absolutely is. I mean, as you say, William, you know, we're all in this together. So dancers can't dance without musicians, and musicians can't play at dances without dancers. So, you know, we are all in it together, and it's about giving everybody that enjoyable experience. So, you know, the dancers appreciating the musicians at the end of each dance and at the end of the night, and, you know, actually going and saying thank you to them, which I know a lot do, but it's just, you know, making sure that does happen, and that the musicians do feel that appreciation that the dancers have got for them. But absolutely, getting younger musicians, younger dancers, and I think it's also what you're saying there, Neil, applies to dancers as well. You know, it's about, you know, we need to bring younger folk in. We need to give them that enjoyable experience whilst they're there, so that they can get that taste for it and then keep it up. Because we know folk, you know, once they get the bug, they're there, and you keep them. But it's getting them in through the door. It's getting them enthused, getting them enjoying it, and that'll keep them coming as well. But absolutely, you know, we do need to do far more to encourage not just younger musicians, just more musicians, because we've got, particularly in Scotland, we do have, you know, a huge amount of musicians that are extremely talented, and I think we touched on this the last time with Luke and Ian as well. We've huge amount of musicians in Scotland that are hugely talented but don't play for Scottish country dancing. And it's what you say there, Neil. It's about getting them in. It's giving them that experience, giving them the ability that they need to, and the knowledge that they need to be able to play for it, and the confidence, I suppose, as well, is probably one of the things. Because I'm sure it must be quite intimidating for a musician to come into a dance hall full of all these experienced dancers with beady eyes looking at them, waiting for them to start playing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing as well is you know, I think the continued development of, you know, new originals. You know, I think I always have a debate with myself as to whether we've got too many originals, actually. You know, because, you know, there's nothing worse than trying to pull together a programme for a dance that you're playing at, and you just can't find, you know, 2 or 3 of the originals. It doesn't matter where you look. You know, I mean, I've got a pen drive with something like about 9,500 originals on it. You know, and you search that and it's no there. God. You know, like so, you end up scratching around trying to find it from anywhere, and you know, and there's a fair few fantastic resources online, thankfully now, that make life so much easier. But I wonder if there's something that you know, could be done on that side of things that would just make life a little easier for the musician. And you know, that again, it's not the be all and end all, and it's certainly not the silver bullet, but it's something that perhaps could help. Just in the amount of time that's taken up preparing for playing for the dances, because you know, when your entire time then becomes the preparation of the program rather than the playing of it, it's not much fun at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, I see where you're coming from there, Neil. Absolutely. By the way, we did have a lovely message from Canada for you tonight from Karen and Scott McCrone. I think who were involved in one of the dances for Book 54, and they just wanted to say a big thank you to you for recording the music for that. So they wanted to pass on best wishes to you. So there you go.
No, lovely. Thank you very much. Yeah, no, much appreciated.
That's great. That's great. And I'm
Yeah.
sure we're all going to look forward to this. It's going to
Well, I was just going to say, I'm really looking forward to it, and particularly now, you know, the story that Bobby Crow's Gola, which is now in your capable hands, Neil, is also in the recording. It's really quite special. So, yeah, thank you very much to you and the band for giving up all of that time to prepare and to record the album. I'm pretty confident it's going to go down very well with our members and those out with RSCDS as well. You know, we want to be able to promote these types of recordings that are, you know, quality band with a quality recording and promote them out with the RSCDS as well, because it's not just about the organisation, it's about the kind of wider music and dance scene as well. So thank you very much to the whole band for taking part in that. It's great.
Fantastic. I'm very surprised, Gary, you recognise that a gola was an accordion and no a football boot. I'm giving away my age now. Gola football boots. You remember them, Neil?
I do remember them, yeah.
Oh, you remember them as well, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But no, that was great, Neil. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. And I'm now going to do my usual and say to Gary, do we have somebody coming, or do we have a guest next week? But I'm frightened because Gary gets terribly overexcited at this moment in time. But Gary, do we have guests next month?
Yes, we do, and I'm very excited about this one. Again, but no, this one will be great. As is,
you need to watch your excitement levels. You really do. Not good for you, man.
I don't get out very much. Let's face it. So very excited that our guest next month is going to be the northeast of Scotland, fiddler Paul Anderson. So
Wow.
great musician, and a real great knowledge of James Scott Skinner. Okay. And he is currently chairman of a group that are trying to get a little project off the ground, but we'll maybe save that for next month. But yeah, very excited that Paul will be coming along. Hopefully he might even bring his fiddle along and give us a little tune or two. But really looking at a bit of history around James Scott Skinner and his connection with Scottish country dancing.
Fantastic. Well, until then, thanks again to Neil, and you know, you get yourself snuggled down there, Neil, in that bedroom, and try and stream some some films or something with that Wi-Fi that wouldn't work and all the rest of it. But
and watch your ears when you take your earrings out.
It didn't go to bed with anything on.
But William, I'm hoping that folk have been able to see the rest of your body tonight. It looks like you've just got a head. Given you to blend in so well in the background.
I do try and match everything, and of course lighting's everything as well. You know, it's very.
Well, maybe you'll get it right for next month.
Yeah. And I see your name's Dan Scottish at home, or RSCDS Dan Scottish tonight as well.
Well, it's better than what some people call me.
Neil, thanks a lot. Great to see you, and we'll see you on the road at summer school or somewhere. And so looking forward to this new recording for Book 54 with Neil Galloway and his Scottish dance band.
Absolutely. I should say that you can pre-order both the book and the CD. If you go into the link that's in the description here, you'll be able to pre-order Book 54 and the CD.
Fantastic. Anyway, in the meantime, that's it for this edition of the Bleather. And until we meet again next month, it's a very good bye from him and me.
And it's a very good bye from me and him. Bye, folks.